You actually did not go away. I mean, you were there enjoying the party like everyone else.
Ted, are you suggesting that I chip in?
Well,
How much?
5.
In the universe of classic TV, some shows just shine brighter. They aren't just programs we watched. They became part of our lives, setting a standard so high that creators are still trying to catch up. At the very top of that list sits the Mary Tyler Moore Show. For 7 seasons, it wasn't just another sitcom. It was a cultural moment. The writing was sharp, the comedic timing was perfect, and the performances felt less like acting and more like watching real people live their lives. The show was famous for its polish and its near-perfect execution week after week. But what if I told you that one of the show's most iconic, most celebrated, and most human moments was born not from that perfection, but from a complete breakdown? What if the secret to its legacy isn't in a polished script, but in a moment of glorious, uncontrollable chaos? The Mary Tyler Moore Show is a classic, known for being witty and perfectly timed. But one of its funniest, most genuine moments was a total accident, hidden in a single, unedited picture. At first glance, this photo looks normal, just a group of friends at a somber event. But if you look closer, you'll see a hilarious blooper. That shows just how incredible the cast's chemistry really was. This isn't just a photo. It's a frame, frozen in time, from what many consider the single greatest sitcom episode in history. An episode so daring the network was afraid to air. It and its own director reportedly wanted nothing to do with it. Stick around as we zoom in on the unedited moment you were never supposed to see, and uncover the story of how a cast losing it on camera created a moment of television so perfect it would be remembered forever. Before we look at our photo, you have to understand the world it came from. When The Mary Tyler Moore Show hit the air in 1970, it was a quiet revolution. TV back then was a sea of family comedies. Then along came Mary Richards, over 30, single, and not looking for a husband. She'd just ended a relationship, moved to a new city, and was focused on her career. For the first time, a major network show was telling the story of an independent, professional woman. The original idea was even bolder. Creators James L. Brooks and Alan Burns first wrote Mary Richards as a divorcee, but CBS executives panicked, worried that viewers would think Mary had divorced Rob Petrie, her husband from The Dick Van Dyke Show. Divorce was still a taboo topic, so they softened it to a broken engagement. To create even more distance, Mary Tyler Moore wore a wig for the first season to give her a different look from the famous Laura Petrie. The show was an instant critical hit, not just for its premise, but for how it was made. The writing was smart, witty, and all about character. The humor grew naturally from the personalities at the WJM-TV newsroom and in Mary's apartment building. You had her grumpy but secretly sweet boss, Lou Grant, played by Ed Asner. There was the vain and hilariously incompetent news anchor Ted Baxter, brought to life by Ted Knight. And you had the quippy, underappreciated writer Murray Slaughter, played by Gavin MacLeod. This workplace family was the heart of the show. Mary's personal life was just as rich. Her best friend and upstairs neighbor, Rhoda Morgenstern, Valerie Harper, was the perfect foil, cynical, funny, and fiercely loyal. Her landlady, the snobbish Phyllis Lindstrom, Cloris Leachman, added another layer of comedy. And later, the arrival of the man-hungry happy homemaker, Sue Ann Nivens, played by the one and only Betty White, completed what is arguably the greatest ensemble in TV history. The chemistry between these actors was the show's secret weapon. While their on-screen rivalries were hilarious, the cast was incredibly close behind the scenes. Though their characters were often at odds, Ed Asner and Ted Knight were friends, even if they had professional tensions. The idea that Cloris Leachman and Valerie Harper disliked each other was pure fiction. They were and remained good friends. That genuine affection translated to the screen. creating a warmth that audiences had never seen before. It's this real connection that makes the moment we're about to explore so special. The show didn't just reflect a changing America, it set a new gold standard for TV comedy, winning 29 Emmy Awards. Part of what made The Mary Tyler Moore Show so respected was how easy it all looked. The show's production was famously detailed. The sets felt real and lived in. The WJM newsroom wasn't some generic office. It was a bustling, functional space. The scripts were polished until every line landed with maximum impact. The performances were a masterclass in timing. Mary Tyler Moore herself was the anchor, an actress of incredible grace. She could show a paragraph's worth of frustration with a single eye roll or a pained smile. The rest of the cast was just as brilliant. Ed Asner's Lou Grant could go from volcanic rage to fatherly kindness in a second. Ted Knight's buffoonery as Ted Baxter was so well-tuned that he was still lovable despite his massive ego. Betty White's Sue Ann Nivens dripped with sweet venom. This was a cast of comedic surgeons. This gave the audience a sense of trust. You knew when you tuned in, you were in the hands of masters. The show was a well-oiled machine, and mistakes just didn't seem to be part of the package. Of course, blooper reels show the cast-breaking character. They were human. But those moments were saved for specials. The finished product that aired each week was pristine. Even the show's iconic opening sequence was a mix of polish and pure luck. That famous shot of Mary tossing her hat in the air in Minneapolis was genius, a symbol of female joy and independence. But even that perfect moment had an unscripted touch. In the background, a real Minneapolis resident named Hazel Frederick can be seen looking on, confused by the sight of a woman throwing her hat. She wasn't an extra. She was just a shopper, and her genuine reaction added a layer of reality to the magic. This dedication to professionalism built an expectation of flawlessness. The audience came to believe that the cast of The Mary Tyler Moore Show simply didn't make mistakes. They were too good, too polished, which is why the story of our photo, a moment of on-screen collapse, is so incredible. It shatters the myth of perfection and reveals something far more interesting. The beautiful, messy humanity that was the true heart of the show. The moment we've been building to comes from a Season 6 episode that aired on October 25, 1975. An episode that TV Guide later named the greatest TV episode of all time. It's called Chuckles Bites the Dust. The premise was a comedic high-wire act. The episode is about the death of a minor character, Chuckles the Clown, the host of a kids' show at the station. His death is, to put it mildly, absurd. While serving as Grand Marshal for a circus parade, Chuckles is dressed as his character Peter Peanut. As Lou Grant breathlessly tells the newsroom, tragedy struck when a rogue elephant tried to shell him. The news of Chuckles' bizarre death sends the newsroom into fits of awful jokes. Lou, Murray, and Sue Ann can't help themselves. You know how hard it is to stop after just one peanut? Sue Ann quips. Through it all, Mary is horrified by their callousness, scolding them for making jokes about a man's death. It's not funny, she insists. She is the moral center of the episode, the anchor of solemnity in a sea of giggles, and she holds that position, right up until the funeral. This is where our photo comes from. It's a single frozen frame during the funeral service. Mary is in a church pew with her now somber friends. She's successfully shamed them into silence. The minister begins the eulogy, and this is where the episode's comedic genius, written by the brilliant David Lloyd, truly ignites. The minister, with total sincerity, starts listing the characters Chuckles created. Chuckles the Clown brought pleasure to millions, he says. The characters he created will be remembered by children and adults alike: Peter Peanut, Mr. Fee-Fi-Fo, Billy Banana, and my particular favorite, Aunt Yoo-Hoo. And right then, something inside Mary Richards snaps. A tiny, involuntary snort escapes her. She tries to stifle it, her eyes wide with horror. She bites her lip, her shoulders shaking. But the minister keeps going, his eulogy getting more absurd with every word. He recalls Mr. Fee-Fi-Fo's catchphrase after being hit by a giant cucumber. "I hurt my foo-foo." He then quotes Chuckles' life philosophy. "A little song, a little dance, a little seltzer down your pants." With each detail, Mary's composure crumbles. Her suppressed giggles turn into shaking, convulsive laughter. She's mortified, desperately trying to turn her laughter into sobs, but she can't. She is losing control completely and spectacularly in the middle of a funeral. And that is our photo. Freeze the frame right there. Look at the faces in that pew. Lou Grant, looking on with a mix of shock and dawning understanding. Murray, trying to stay solemn. And Mary, her face a perfect mask of horror, shame, and uncontrollable glee. This isn't a scripted laugh. This is the image of an actress and a character completely surrendering to the absurdity of the moment. This unedited frame captures the exact instant that the show's wall of professionalism came crashing down in the most hilarious and human way possible. Let's zoom in on that frozen moment from the pew. To really get it, you have to look beyond the script. What we're seeing isn't just Mary Richards losing it. We're seeing Mary Tyler Moore, the actress, on the verge of breaking character in one of the toughest scenes of her career. Look at her eyes. They're wide with a real panic that no actor could fake. It's the look of someone who knows they're supposed to be doing one thing while their body is doing the exact opposite. Her mouth is twisted, trying to disguise a laugh as a cough or a sob. It's a masterclass in physical comedy, fueled by a very real struggle. According to the show's co-creator Alan Burns, Moore had a hard time keeping a straight face even in rehearsals for this scene. What we see on screen is that struggle made real. Now, look at the others. Ed Asner, as Lou Grant, is a rock. But there's a flicker in his eyes. It's not just Lou looking at Mary, it's Ed Asner, a close friend, watching Mary Tyler Moore navigate this comedic minefield. Their real-life friendship adds another layer to this moment. Gavin MacLeod, as Murray, is a study in quiet support. He keeps his somber expression, but he's angled slightly toward Mary, silently acknowledging her struggle. What makes this frame so powerful is how real it feels. The scene is a perfect comedic storm. The script, by David Lloyd, is a work of genius, layering one absurdity on top of another. The name Chuckles, the cause of death, the ridiculous character names, each one is a comedic landmine, and Mary steps on every single one. The laughter we see isn't just a plot point. It taps into a deep psychological truth, that we sometimes laugh at the worst moments as a release for tension and grief. Mary's laughter isn't just funny, it's deeply, recognizably human. We've all felt that bubble of inappropriate laughter rise in a quiet room. We've all struggled to suppress a giggle at the worst possible time. In this single, unedited frame, we see the result of brilliant writing and a cast so in tune with each other they could pull off this treacherous scene. The blooper isn't that Mary laughed. The magic is how she laughed. It was the raw, messy, and real laugh of a person caught in a moment of utter helplessness. And in that, it became one of the most perfect moments in television history. Moment like the funeral scene in Chuckles Bites the Dust doesn't just happen. It was the product of creative courage, writing genius, and a willingness to take huge risks. First, there was the writer, David Lloyd. He joined the show in its later seasons and was known for his sharp, daring scripts. The idea for this episode came from his own dark sense of humor, but a story about finding laughs in death made the network, CBS, incredibly nervous. They worried the subject was just too morbid for a primetime comedy. The anxiety wasn't just at the network. The show's main director, the legendary Jay Sandrich, who directed most of the episodes, famously passed on this one. While some accounts say he was simply unavailable, others suggest he was uncomfortable with the material and felt it was in poor taste. Either way, the producers had a brilliant script that their own director was hesitant to shoot. The job ultimately went to Joan. Darling, a rarity as a female director in primetime TV back then. She understood the script's delicate balance and wasn't afraid of its dark premise. Still, the challenges continued. During rehearsals, the episode was met with an unnerving silence from the crew, usually a bad sign. Everyone became nervous, that the episode was a disaster in the making. But then, the doors opened for the live studio audience, and from the first joke about Chuckles' death, the audience roared. They didn't just laugh. They laughed so long and so hard that it created a major headache for the editors who had to trim the show down to its standard 25-minute runtime. The audience got it. They understood the jokes weren't mocking death, but our awkward ways of coping with it. This is the environment that created our photo, a nervous network that trusted its creators. A writer who pushed boundaries, a brave director, and a live audience that confirmed their instincts were right. The cast fed off that energy, giving them the confidence to push the scene to its comedic limits. The moment in the pew was a shared experience between the actors and hundreds of people all finding it okay to laugh at death together. It was a risk that paid off, earning David Lloyd a well-deserved Emmy Award for his script. What we're seeing is how a single, unedited moment can tell a much bigger story. It's a reminder that the best parts of our favorite shows are often the ones that feel the most real. If you're enjoying this look back at classic TV, and if you believe these stories deserve to be told, take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe. It's the best way to make sure you don't miss our next video. And let us know in the comments, what's your favorite TV blooper? Or is there another classic TV moment you think holds a hidden secret? The uncontrollable laughter in Chuckles Bites the Dust wasn't a one-off. It was the most famous example of a philosophy woven into the fabric of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. While the show was praised for its polish, its true magic often came from embracing the small, unscripted moments that other shows would have cut. Think back to the opening credits. In later seasons, the intro was updated with new shots. We see Mary squatting to feed ducks, yelping as they snap at her. We see her and Valerie Harper sharing a real laugh on the street. We see her washing her car in a Vikings jersey, a candid moment that feels completely unstaged. These weren't perfectly planned scenes. They were happy accidents the producers recognized as gold, weaving them into the show's identity. This philosophy carried over into the episodes. The show was known for letting prop malfunctions play out. If an actor fumbled a coffee cup, they'd often incorporate the mistake into the scene, reacting like a real person would. Mary, especially, was a master at turning a small stumble into a moment of relatable comedy. Sometimes these bloopers came from the real, complex relationships between the actors. On set, the cast was a loving but sometimes complicated family. There were occasional tensions, particularly with Ted Knight, who could be insecure in the early seasons. While everyone remained professional, these real human dynamics sometimes bled through, adding an invisible texture to what we saw on screen. The loving exasperation Lou Grant felt for Ted Baxter felt real because in some ways it was. These moments, the genuine laughter, the fumbled props, the flashes of real relationships, created an environment of spontaneity. The audience could feel that what they were watching was alive and unpredictable. The Chuckles funeral scene is the ultimate expression of this. It's a moment where a character break isn't a mistake, it's the whole point. The show intentionally blurred the line between the actor's struggle and the characters. By letting Mary completely lose control, the showrunners showed a profound trust in their audience and their performers. They knew we wouldn't see it as a mistake, but as a moment of hilarious truth. It proved the show's biggest strength wasn't its perfection, but its humanity. So we come back to our photo, a single frame from a 1970s sitcom. We started by looking closer, and as we did, the image unfolded. It stopped being just a picture of actors in a pew and became a window into a television legend. We saw more than a character laughing at a funeral. We saw an actress, Mary Tyler Moore, at the peak of her powers, performing a comedic high-wire act without a net. We saw a cast so connected they could support each other through one of the most difficult and hilarious scenes ever written. We saw the legacy of a writer, David Lloyd, who dared to find humor in a taboo, and a director, Joan Darling, who bravely brought that vision to life. The story of this frame is the story of The Mary Tyler Moore Show itself. It's about the myth of perfection and the greater beauty of being real. For all its polish and sharp writing, the show's soul was never in being flawless. It was in the human moments. It was in Mary's exasperated sigh, Lou's reluctant smile, and Ted's clueless bravado. It was in the genuine warmth that came from a cast that truly cared for each other. The blooper in that funeral pew wasn't a mistake. It was a revelation. It revealed that the foundation of this iconic show wasn't just talent, but trust. The trust of a network in its creators, of creators in their writers, and most importantly, the trust of the performers in each other and in their audience. They trusted that we would understand, that we would laugh with them, and that we would recognize a piece of our own flawed, funny humanity in Mary's uncontrollable giggles. That unedited moment tells us why we still talk about The Mary Tyler Moore Show today. It wasn't just a show that made you laugh, it was a show that understood why you laugh. It knew that sometimes the most profound thing we can do in the face of life's absurdity is to just surrender to it. And that is a legacy no amount of editing could ever improve. It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to be true.